Hello, and welcome to the Paranormal Operator Podcast, where we talk about all manner of things that go bump in the night. Here, we will be discussing sightings, investigations, news, and popular media surrounding the paranormal, supernatural, and occult phenomena. So settle in as we search for the truth. I am your host, Adam, Operator 23. In today's mini-episode, we will be discussing Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, Season 4, Episode 4, The Watchers. Spoiler warning. Spoilers ahead in 3, 2, 1. The episode begins with a recap of the previous episode where the rocket engine explodes. Having seen the episode, it was quite spectacular. The failure appears to have happened on the side of the rocket motor, and according to Travis, that is just about unheard of as far as he is concerned, or at least in his experience of launching hundreds of these types of rockets. Upon review of the high-speed camera footage, you may remember that they were shooting very high-speed cameras at about 1,000 frames per second. The anomaly that we saw, what was called the blob, was clearly visible from the very first frame. It is estimated that the explosion happened around 30 feet off the ground. And Travis brings up a point that 31 feet is also the same height that a flight computer from a previous rocket had made it to. So you may recall, I want to say it was in the last season, they had this really big, 15-foot rocket. It just detonated on the pad. It didn't lift off or anything. But I'm assuming that what he's trying to correlate is that rocket, because they do bring up that it was that big mamma jamma of a rocket, that it exploded, and maybe that the force had enough push behind it to launch the flight computer up to 31 feet, and maybe it hit something. I think that's what he's trying to possibly insinuate here. At any rate, there might be a correlation. Now, Caleb chimes in, and he asks whether or not the anomaly could be a force field or possibly even a portal. And Travis alludes to the fact that this is a very valid question. He's not willing to rule anything out at this moment. And in fact, given all the RF activity that is going on there at the ranch, there's a possibility it could be a portal. Because, according to Travis, all this RF activity, all the weird frequencies going on, all the weird energies going on, it could be, evidence of a portal. Also, during the review, Eric spots a light above the mesa, and it is only there for one frame, and I want to reiterate, they're shooting at 1,000 frames per second. So this object appears for 1 millisecond. And it's fairly bright. I feel confident had it been there for longer than a millisecond, the guys probably would have spotted it, because there's nothing else in the sky that's that bright. So, after they do the section reviewing the rocket, and there's one more thing, and they didn't really bring this up so much in the show, but they talked a little bit about it in the debrief for you Skinwalker Ranch insiders. They did talk about what they thought was maybe a lens flare coming off the cone of the rocket. And it's very interesting because I want to say it was Travis said that, if it had been an actual flare, you would have expected to see it be symmetrical, but in the shots that they have, it's not symmetrical at all. And something called Cherenkov radiation came up, that particular concept. So, Cherenkov radiation is electromagnetic radiation which is emitted when a charged particle passes through a dielectric medium at a speed greater than the velocity of light in that medium. So, a classic example of Cherenkov radiation is the characteristic blue glow of an underwater nuclear reactor. And so basically what you have happen is you have some particle, be it electrons or protons or whatever, and they are traveling through a medium, not through a vacuum, faster than the speed of light. And so it'll give off this weird glow. And for some of you saying, well, you can't travel faster than the speed of light. Well, that's true. In a vacuum, you can't. But the point here is this is traveling through some kind of medium. It's traveling through something. And in this case, I think Travis was saying that it might be traveling through the plastic of the nose cone of the rocket. So you can look that up. Cherenkov radiation, Cherenkov. So after they get done with the review, the next portion of the episode is bringing in the crane to begin moving boulders. Now, in the previous episode, you may recall that they actually brought in a small bulldozer and they put a little culvert in so that way the drainage or irrigation ditch could continue flowing water. And they cleared a pretty big patch for the crane to sit. Well, this episode, the crane shows up. It's not there for very long, or at least it's not in the show. It doesn't appear to be that long. In the debrief, they actually say that it was there for like 3 days. And they don't really show, I think there's one shot of all the rocks that actually did move. Now, being something new on the ranch, and in relation to digging, obviously, things are going to go awry, and immediately the crane starts to malfunction. There are glitches in the computer which will not even let the operator pick up the counterweight. And so the crane itself cannot operate without the counterweight. And so I'm not entirely sure how long that took because of the editing and all in this show. But interestingly enough, at that same time, Eric and the guys were picking up that 1.6 gigahertz signal. And Travis suggests that since the ground is so energized, because you might recall, I think season 3, like they had a tape measure in a hole, and the ground was so magnetized it was pulling the metal tape measure toward it or pushing it away from it. And he kind of alluded to the fact that, maybe the ground is so energized that you have this massive crane, and could very well be acting like some sort of an antenna, which I think that's pretty cool. Pretty cool concept. Not sure if it's actually that's what it's doing, because it is kind of grounded, because it underneath the outriggers they put these big, I want to say they're rubber or some kind of very dense material, and that helps to level out the load underneath the outriggers to stabilize the crane. So I don't think the crane is actually contacting the ground itself. But, maybe the energy's coming up from the ground and it's hitting the crane in such a way that it is resonating and it's conducting this frequency somehow. I don't know. I'm not a physicist. That's a Travis question. Anyway, I think it's an interesting concept. So after they do move the boulders, they cut back to the command center. Brandon, Cameron, and Mr. Reyes, who is the Utah Attorney General, they come to review the rocket footage. Now Cameron, who is the pilot, he's Brandon Fugel's brother. Cameron is very confident that the helicopter that came over the ranch was in fact a Black Hawk, due basically to the noise that it was making. And he's got a point. Military helicopters, they do have a particular whump, if you will, for their rotary blades. And if you recall, the helicopter, it was not transponding, and in fact, it appeared to go dark, meaning it turned its lights off. Unfortunately, we don't have a good camera angle to show that. In the debrief, Eric actually talked about the all-sky camera, that it had eyes on the helo the whole time, and it was lit up. So there unfortunately is no camera angle that caught that. That would have been really cool to see it disappear behind the anomaly. At any rate, many of you have probably heard of a guy named David Paulides. He wrote the Missing 411 books. I'm a big fan of his. I listened to his review of this episode, and he made a pretty good point, that anybody can get their hands on a Black Hawk. If you're in the government or if you're doing work for the government, it's not difficult to get your hands on it. And we'll come back to that later. Now, with the Attorney General there, they ask him if he would mind sticking around for some experiments, which he does. And basically what they do, they take some medicine balls and they drop them out of Cameron's helicopter. And the goal here is basically to study their trajectory, their speed, whether or not they speed up, they slow down, do they come straight down, do they veer off to one side, do they go with the wind, do they go against the wind. And I mean, these seem like they're fairly big medicine balls. So the first set of 5 is dropped from, I want to say it's 1,000 feet above ground. It's kind of weird. In the debrief, Caleb was saying 100 feet, but I'm not sure if he was remembering that incorrectly or not. But at any rate, once they started dropping the first set, the 1.6 gigahertz signal appeared again, just briefly, and Thomas started experiencing some head and neck pain, which made him inclined to leave. And from what I understand, that discomfort did last for like 2 or 3 days, and that it did in fact get worse even after he had left the ranch. So, again, the first set might have been 100. I think it was 1,000 feet. I'm pretty sure that's what they say in the actual show. The second set, they go up to 5,000 feet. Now, this is 5,000 feet above ground level, so 5,000 feet AGL. They're actually higher than that in above sea level, right? Because the ranch itself is almost a mile high to begin with. And, well, the weather is less than cooperative. Unfortunately, there is some rain, and it is beginning to lightning. And when the helo gets close to its mark over the triangle, at the higher altitude, the winds pick up, and they go from like 8 knots to 35 knots, which kind of pushes the helicopter around a bit. And one very interesting anomaly is that the compass spins, so that's something else. So they do get 4 balls out the window. Well, technically the door, I guess. And they call the experiment, they abort due to lightning. So back on the ground, they review the GPS data because Eric had put some GPS trackers on the helicopter so they could see, whether or not there was some sort of time-space anomaly or something that might mess with the GPS data. And in fact, there was. Now, it wasn't nothing crazy as far as going underneath the mesa, but it still was not true to the flight path. And there were several discrepancies between the position of the helicopter and the altitude. And in fact, Eric brought up that there was a maneuver on the screen where it had tracked the helicopter going up and over something. And Eric said that from the base to the top of the maneuver was 666.1 feet. Now, I'm sure everyone here knows what the number 666 is. Well, I don't want to jump to any conclusions. But, I mean, that's kind of weird that it's 666.1 feet. But I'll let you guys decide how you feel about that. Now, reviewing the footage of the helicopter, so like they were shooting video up at the helicopter as it was making its passes. There was an object that was brought out using an embossing filter. So basically it didn't change the image so much as it just kind of brought out more information. And lo and behold, there is a UAP. It is metal, or at least it looks metallic, and it appears to have mass. It's got, on the sun-facing side, it's nice and shiny. On the downward-facing side, it's all shadowy. So, it's clearly something. Not entirely sure what it was. The image was real blurry. It was kind of grainy. Travis, though, he kind of thinks that it might be similar to the one that they saw, I think it was last season, where it was a UAP that was basically two kind of hemispheres connected by a split in the middle. I don't know. I couldn't really make that much detail out of it, but, you know, him being right there and not looking through two screens, maybe he saw something I didn't. So by the end of the episode, the Attorney General updates the team on what he's found out about that mysterious helicopter, which flew over the ranch right after the rocket blew up. So here's what we know. Yes, it was a Black Hawk. We have no idea who was flying it. We have no idea why they were flying it. We do know that it took off from McDonald Airfield, flew northeast over the Uinta, Wasatch Cache National Forest. It flew around Ashley National Forest, came south, over the ranch, and then returned west to the Salt Lake area, where it appears the trail ends, looks like somewhere around Sandy City. And that's it. That's all the information we have. There will be no more information forthcoming. And in fact, Reyes, the Attorney General, even said that he was not able to divulge his sources. So during the debrief, Travis said, well, you know what, guys, it might not be the military, because the military technically can't spy on Americans. That's not something they can do, which is true. It's true. Not technically supposed to do that doesn't mean they haven't done it in the past. There have been evidence that they have conducted PSYOPs on the UFO community in the past. It is a thing that they do, so I would not put it past them. But at any rate, Travis was saying that while it might not be the military, it could be military contractors, because sometimes they want American soldiers to go out there and, you know, get stuff done, but while it is Americans, it's not quote-unquote American soldiers. So he thinks that it could possibly be some kind of contractor. Now, additionally, getting back to the ball dropping experiment, in the debrief, Caleb actually elaborated a little bit on it, saying that, you know, when they dropped the balls out, they all landed roughly in a straight line. Now, they were 50, 100 feet apart or whatever, but they all landed roughly in a straight line. And the darndest thing was that, like, the first ball, they found it, they went like 50 feet, there was the next one, and then the next one was just gone. It was gone. They could not find it at all. It has gone somewhere. And Caleb, he reiterated he's been out there when in the winter when all the foliage, all the plants are dead. The foliage. I'm probably saying that wrong. All the plants are dead, right? There's nothing covering the ground. Where is this ball at? And he's not been able to find it. But they found one. They found a second. The third one's missing, and then I think he said that they found the other ones, but they were on a line. And then there's just this gap where this last ball or this third ball is like just gone. Foliage. That's the word. Foliage. I knew I was get it out there in a minute. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, if you want more about the debrief, you need to join the Skinwalker Ranch Insider Program. You get exclusive content. You get Q&As with the crew. You get access to camera feeds. I actually have the camera feeds pulled up right now on my big screen, and it looks nice and sunny right now in Utah. A little overcast, but pretty nice. Now, addition to that, you also get a really cool membership card and a Skinwalker Ranch Insider t-shirt, which you cannot buy. It comes with the membership. So, it's pretty cool thing to have. I would definitely recommend it. Now, most people might say, it's not that exciting of an episode, but, I mean, hey, it held my interest. It was pretty good. I guess some people might call it a filler episode. I don't know. But, Travis had, brought up some really good questions. Why exactly is the government or whoever, why are they watching the ranch? Why would they fly over the ranch, given that they had a NOTAM with the FAA? The ranch at that time was a no-fly zone because... not Travis, Thomas stated, if that helicopter had come over at just the wrong time, and if they had another rocket, it very well could have ended poorly. And not that they would have, tried to shoot the rocket down, but wrong place, wrong time, That would have been a bad thing. People would have gotten hurt, but, I gotta be honest, maybe we could have gotten some answers had that happened. Not wishing ill on anybody, but, you gotta screw around and find out kind of thing. And you don't want to do that. At any rate, I hope that y'all are enjoying the content. I know I'm enjoying making it, and I can't wait for the next few episodes. From what I understand, they are quite interesting. Some of the questions that were asked during the debrief, the crew could not answer, only with stay tuned. So it seems like it's going to be a very exciting season, and they're also going to be adding extra episodes, so this is going to be a longer season. At any rate, folks, that's Skinwalker Ranch for this week. And that's all I have for now. If you like what you heard, please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If you do like what you heard, I would appreciate you do all those things. If you didn't like what you heard, I appreciate your time. Thank you for staying this long. And, maybe hopefully we'll improve and we'll come up with something you do like. You can find us on Twitter at ParanormalOps23 and Instagram at ParanormalOperator23. Our email, if you have any sightings or experiences you would like to report, is paranormaloperator23@gmail.com. Until next time, folks, keep searching in the darkness.